right, and welcome to Jail Talk. Rob McAfee and Kylie Ekron along with you. This week's episode, we're fortunate enough to have retired Sheriff Sid Lockhart with us. And Sheriff, I would love it if you would share with our listeners, our viewers, a little bit about yourself and your background, your history in law enforcement. I know, I think just over 50 years of law enforcement or just around 50 years of law enforcement background for you. So take it away, Sheriff. It's up to you now.
All right, Rob, thank you for having me on today. I look forward to it. But I started in the jail in 1975 as a corrections officer. Stayed there a couple of years and had a chance to go to Lynette Police Department. Was there 2 or 3 years. Then we had a City of Valley Incorporated. Went there for 4 or 5 years. And then the sheriff before me, he offered me a job as a deputy. So I went back to the sheriff's office, worked my way up to investigator. From investigator, I left and went to the district attorney's office and was there a couple of years and knew I planned on running for sheriff one day. So the chief deputy left and went to Swanee, Georgia Police Department as chief. And
Okay.
the sheriff offered me a job as chief deputy. And then I was fortunate enough to run for sheriff and get elected and served 28 years as sheriff.
Wow.
And people have been mighty good to me.
Yeah. Well, that's a long time, and thank you for your service all those years. It's a great service to your communities.
Well, thank you. And like I said, the people in this community have been fantastic to me all the years, and it's a great place to work.
So you said something that I'm going to touch on just briefly here, because you said, I always knew I wanted to run for sheriff. I'd like to know more about that. I think that's kind of it may be a goal for folks after they've been in law enforcement for a while, and maybe that was the case for you, but you don't necessarily hear a lot of people voice that hope or dream or aspiration that they want to be sheriff. What struck you in your career that you said, that's where I want to be?
Well, like you said, when I first was hired, I had no intentions of running for sheriff. Never thought I'd be fortunate enough to run or get elected. And as the years went on, and then after I moved up to investigations, I started thinking about it. And then I had people come to me and say, "You need to run," because the sheriff that was here before I was sheriff, he was like a father figure to me. And there's no way I would have ran against him. But when he announced he was going to retire, and I started thinking more so that I need to run. And first time I ran, there was like, I think it was 5 of us that ran. And all 5 were my close friends. But we had a good, clean election. And I was fortunate enough to get elected. And from then on, I was very fortunate and never did have a close race again. And
Yeah.
like I said, the people have always been good to me, but I try to give back over the years to the community. I'm involved in so many different things, fundraisers, someone's house burned or somebody with cancer, and continuously out in the public. One thing I don't like is a politician that the only time you see him or her is election time. And
Right.
they want to shake hands, and the rest of the time, they walk right by you and don't speak. So if you're elected by the people, you need to give back and be involved in the community.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've talked to several sheriffs or jail commanders here on the podcast, and I think that's kind of a theme we've seen over and over, is that get involved in your community, and then the community will support you in kind. And what are some of the ways that you and your sheriff's office and your leadership were involved in the communities and given back?
Well, we had like the DARE program. It was a good hit. We went into the schools. We took a hearse and outfitted it and put a casket in it and went to the schools and would speak to the young people about what happens if you are involved in drugs. Any kind of event we were involved in it. Relay for Life, for the American Cancer Society, diabetes, on and on. We went to all the football games.
Sure.
We even had a helicopter. We would do ball drops like at golf courses for fundraisers, where we'd drop the balls out of a helicopter, and then the one
Yeah.
that's closest to the hole would win money. Logger load for kids, which is where the local loggers get involved, and they raise money for the hospitals in Birmingham, Alabama. And it just goes on and on. We even had a local cemetery. The state finally took it over, and then they finally washed their hands of it. And we're talking about a huge cemetery. Myself and trustees and some other deputies would go out and we cut the grass for several years till it was sold to another organization. So anything we could do, we're leaving. In fact, still leaving Monday. We go to Vidalia, Georgia, pick up onions for the Alabama Sheriff's Girls Ranch over in Tallapoosa County to buy items that they desperately need. We've been doing that for 25 years, and I could go on and on. It's just, and I enjoy it. I still enjoy it, and I still like to see my deputies and some of my sheriff friends in the communities around us, and it's being sheriff is an honor to serve the people.
Well, it's very inspirational to hear you talk about all those events, and like you said, you could probably go on and on and on over the long time you've served. Um, Getting back to kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier prior to the show, when you first started, you said you started off in the jail. Your first day. Talk about your introduction to the world of working in a jail and what that was like.
Well, I started off in a reserve program, and every other weekend you have to run the jail on Saturday night. Two reserves would run the jail. And then when Sheriff Morgan offered me the opportunity to go to work there, I did. And back then, it has changed so much till today. We had one jailer on duty at a time, and he was also dispatcher. You'd have 40 or 50 inmates, and you'd have to answer calls. You know, when someone calls about a wreck or shooting or anything, you would have to answer the phone and dispatch deputies. But when you went 10-6 to make your rounds in the jail, the phone could ring, and if you had an emergency, it would just ring and ring and ring until you came back into the office. And you know, you think if something like that went on today, it'd be so sad. But you know, and then if someone called in and had someone having a heart attack or needing CPR, we weren't trained to tell them how to do it. Like now, you call in and anything. Dispatchers are trained to tell the people how to, you know, if they get someone choking or heart attack or drowning or whatever. And even back when I was a jailer, if an old drunk was going in DTs, we kept a bottle of whiskey there, and you just give them a little bit of cup of whiskey, and they'd be fine. They'd be fine. But you
back to even, huh?
yeah, they were okay. You
That's
don't do that. You don't do that today, but that's the way we had to do things back in the day, and we wasn't the only jail that did that, because I know of several others. But it's changed so much, and now we have the 911 centers, especially in our county. They're first class, and they do a great job. And the jail now has over 30 employees, so it's gone from one employee to 30 now, or about 33 to tell you the truth. And we have like nurses and doctors on staff, and training is essential. They train quite regularly and keep up with everything nowadays. But it's changed so much, and which has all been for the good. It really has. And but some of the worst problems in Alabama that I see is mental health. We have a tremendous amount of inmates in jail that that, my opinion, don't need to be there. They need to be in facilities to treat mental health. And
Right.
the state of Alabama just does not have enough facilities to take care of these people. And
Well, and I think that, that's kind of one of those themes nationwide too. The jail I worked at in Oregon, I think that we just did a podcast with some of their staff, and they echo that sentiment.
is that
Is
right?
that one of the big changes you've seen? And I know I saw it over 10 years working in a jail, and um, the difference in the inmate of today versus the inmate of, say, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they're different. They're different inmates. There's different things that you have to deal with on a day to day than you did back then.
Absolutely. And I guess, like you say, you could go California, they have the same problems, or Tennessee or Texas. It's just a different state with the same problems.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you've seen the jail do differently than when you first started versus what they're doing now? I feel like mental health has been more of a conversation now than it probably was when you first started, but is there anything that has changed, I guess, in the jail specifically?
You're absolutely right. We didn't hear mental health when I was a corrections officer. Nobody even talked about mental health. But now we do have, like, we have what they call an Alstabrook Center in our county. They evaluate them, and if they need be, there's a hospital in Lee County they send them to. But it really hadn't changed a whole lot. We just, and all the sheriffs, I'm sure in Alabama would echo that they're all having the same problem. Is more mental health, and then people addicted to drugs is the two main problems. And talking about drugs, back when I first started, and a lot of it was more. You had more alcoholics and drunks that was coming to jail, and very few people that came to jail back then, involved in drugs. But now it is just skyrocketed, and you see a lot more females now. Back when I was a corrections officer, you'd have if you had two females, maybe three, you had a lot. But nowadays we probably have 30 or 40 females incarcerated,
Mm-hmm.
and 99% of them has something to do with drugs.
Yeah, and I think that is something definitely to notice is that the population, like we said, the population is so different than it was years ago. Part of it is the mental health, part of it is the drug addiction, part of it is the gender. You've got more females than you ever had. And that creates a whole other staffing issue then, right? Because you've got to have female staff members to deal with those female inmates.
Absolutely. You sure do.
What are some of the ways you worked around recruiting and retention then to keep those females interested in working there and get the best of the best?
It took a while because we're surrounded by, like for instance, Lee County, which is the same county as Auburn, Alabama's in, and they paid a lot more than we did as far as deputies and corrections officers. So over the years, we were able to get our salary up competitive to them, and the work environment. People, we had some leave and go to other counties, but most of them would come back. Because I just think, and I really don't know why. Because some of it, like I say, our salaries weren't quite competitive as theirs, but I think they had a good work environment, and we tried to work like family. It just it's like one big family. We argue, fuss, and fight like brothers and sisters, but when the day's over, I mean, we hug everybody's neck and go home. So
Yeah.
I really believe that was what made a little difference. Now we lost some that did not come back because they were going for the money, which helped out their retirement, and you can't hold that against anyone.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about something you see. You get to visit a lot of jails now, maybe in a little different role as in the ambassador type role that you're doing now, traveling around. What do you see in the jails today that you're like, man, if we'd have had that 30 years ago, my career might have been a lot easier, or would have really been a great tool to use. What's one of those things you see that you're like, I wish we'd have had that?
The main thing that I see is an X-ray machine, where that
Yeah.
you can walk through. It's not just your normal X-ray machine like you see at the courthouses or the airports such as that. It's a lot of internal and on the X-rays, but it inmates, believe it or not, I know it's going to be hard for you to believe since you worked in corrections, that inmates will sneak
No
into the
way.
jail. I know it's hard to believe, but I would say you'd be surprised what they do. But I don't have to tell you that.
Right.
But
Never ceases
you
to
can
amaze
search.
me.
Oh, absolutely, you can search them the best you can, but you can't always find anything. They take a rubber hammer and tear up an anvil.
Yeah.
It's if they would use their energy when they're out on the street to
Yeah.
to do these things. And some of them, we have some that work like Trojans in jail, but if they get out, they wouldn't work at a
Yes.
pie factory. But the X-ray machine, I would have, and they're pretty expensive. I would have loved to have that because we had people go out on work release. We'd have trustees that go out every day and pick up paper and such, and it's easy for them to sneak something back into the jail.
Yep.
And that was is the biggest thing that I really wish we could have had years ago.
Yeah. And when you get to a body scanner, it's not always about um, just finding the item, but it is safety and security for the staff and the other inmates.
Absolutely, you have a right to protect the other inmates, and that you have to do. And like you say, the staff also,
Yeah.
because we, in my jail, we probably, when I retired, had, I'd say, somewhere near 8 or 10 in there for capital murder.
Right.
And they're just looking for a chance to hit the free world.
Yeah. Well, and they're
And
not gonna have regard for committing another crime because they already know they're in there.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And something else that we're seeing too now, the inmates are getting younger and younger.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We've had them in jail at 13 for murder.
Wow.
Oh, and when I retired, we probably had I'd say between murder and capital murder, probably 12 or 15. And another problem is our court system.
Yeah.
It's so overloaded. We just have grand jury twice a year, and we have 3 judges, but they have to work 4 counties,
Right.
and they're stretched too thin. But we have people in jail for murder, been there several years.
Pre-trial.
Oh yes,
Wow.
but it's
How do you fix
it's a
something like
tough
that?
job. Well, like I say, we need more judges. We need more court time and court personnel. Because it's just when you have grand jury twice a year, and then you indict 200 or 300 people each grand jury,
Right.
it's hard to get them through court.
Right. Is that in that? So I'm gonna I'm gonna lead you down a road where I do like to talk about, but I'm not gonna try to give away my opinion. But um, is that one of the things about the system then that is that change supported by people in the system? And if not, or if so, how do you make the change happen?
You know, like I said, the court system, the people involved are doing the best they can. But like I said, we're in a 4-county circuit. That,
Mm-hmm.
to my opinion, it's too many. It's too big. We need
Yeah.
if like Lee County next to us is in their own circuit. So they have more grand jury and more court. If they could at least split our circuit up into, the two of the four counties, with us, and then the other two, for their own circuit, would probably help out. But it goes back to financing and money,
right?
And all this would have to come from the state.
Yeah.
But it's just it really is too big of area for the DA and the circuit judges to have to cover, really.
Well, and when you talk about 600, up to 600 indictments for 2 grand juries a year, and then you think, there's only roughly 260 days, maybe 250 days of court a year. So you're not even going to get to half of those, which then leads to more plea deals, which may not be what the public wants anyway.
You're exactly right. You're absolutely right. And see, you think about that, but then the other counties, one of the other counties is probably about our size, a little bigger. The other two counties are a little smaller, but you think about those judges having and the DA go to those other counties, and if the big county indicts as many as we do, 300 each, and they just have it twice a year, and then the other two smaller counties do it. You think how many inmates that's indicted in this circuit, and there's no way the judges can do an adequate job.
Yeah. It's certainly a conundrum. I think it's something that system has to be addressed at some point, or you like you said, the pretrial. There's so many pretrial programs now to get people out of jail pretrial, but there's some people you can't get out, shouldn't let out of jail pretrial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we have what they call pretrial diversion here that works good, and we're all at a place over the weekend and was talking to a lady that her daughter was hooked on drugs for years and years and years. And we didn't figure she'd be living now. But she told me that she has been clean for about 3 years now and just doing great. So some things are working, but,
Sure. It takes a full tool belt to get all the solutions on the table. Yeah. Well, Sheriff, I really appreciate your time today. I know we were interested to hear about your career and everything you've done in your service for the communities down there. And, if there's ever a time we can talk to you again, we'll certainly do it.
Well, I appreciate it, Rob. And Kylie, y'all have been great. If y'all need me for anything, please give me a call.
Yes, sir. So if we want to appreciate you for watching this episode, Kylie, where can they find us?
Our viewers can find us at JailTalk Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe as always on YouTube and Instagram. And you can always find us at turnkeycorrections.com.
All right, Sheriff, thank you very much for joining us. We'll talk again soon.